Hello, welcome to the Bella Infidelity Stories channel, a place where we present genuine narratives filled with surprising turns. If you found the video enjoyable, consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. It truly contributes to the growth of our channel. Now, let us immerse ourselves in the narrative. I have spent several years at this company. At 32, I suppose I've established quite a name for myself in this place. Not the ostentatious type, but the sort that inspires trust and dependability in others. I'm the expert everyone turns to for all things. From tackling challenges in the workplace to coordinating team-building activities. I have a harmonious relationship with all. To be honest, it doesn't require much effort on my part. I simply aim to be true to who I am. It appears that I have garnered some fondness from others, and perhaps that's the most significant aspect in an environment such as this. I have put in significant effort to reach my current position, and I have gained the confidence of my peers. I lack any family connections, no spouse, no children. I pour my heart and soul into my craft. This has been my central aim and driving force for quite some time now. Next, we have Patricia. At 43, she is the wife of the boss and also holds a position here. She's not just an ordinary office worker. She occupies a prominent role within the organization. I participated in several professional meetings with her, and we've consistently enjoyed a good rapport. She possesses a graceful charm that sets her apart, and truly, engaging in conversation with her feels effortless. Many perceive her as intimidating, yet I have always regarded her simply as another individual to interact with, much like any other coworker. She has consistently exuded warmth, perhaps a touch overly so at times, yet I never gave it much thought. Imagine a person who radiates warmth and charm, their smile a constant presence. She would praise my efforts or the way I manage challenging circumstances. At times, she'd casually remark on my ability to captivate an entire room effortlessly. I would return the smile, perhaps share a light-hearted quip, and continue on my way. It was innocent, wasn't it? She is the spouse of my superior. Ultimately, there was no genuine threat. But recently, something seems amiss. It wasn't anything explicit, yet there were instances when I would notice her glancing at me for just a moment longer than expected, her eyes holding on a bit too intently. She would invite me to linger after a meeting, not for anything work-related, but for a brief conversation. Initially, I dismissed it as inconsequential. Perhaps she was simply being her usual warm and welcoming self. However, those once warm conversations began to take on a new tone. Somewhat more intimate, somewhat less focused on professional matters. A few weeks ago, in the break room, something memorable happened. The office lay silent and deserted as I poured myself a cup of coffee. Patricia entered the room, and oddly enough, she seemed to lack her typical air of professionalism. It was understated, yet I perceived it. She leaned against the counter, a touch closer than normal, and said, "You know, Richard, I truly admire the way you manage everything here. Your ability to create a welcoming atmosphere is truly remarkable." It's truly remarkable, isn't it? Initially, I didn't give it much thought, but there was something distinct about her tone. Perhaps a touch more genuine, with a hint of playful charm. I preferred to keep it light, so I simply let out a chuckle. I simply fulfill my responsibilities. She beamed with joy. Actually, you contribute even more than that. It's clear that many admire you. Having that kind of influence is quite a challenge, particularly in this area. I was completely surprised. Was she praising me, or was there a deeper meaning? I was unable to discern. Yet again, she had uttered words that caused me to stop and reflect. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself that she was merely being cordial. Yet, that unsettling sensation remained. In the days that followed, it lingered in my mind. Whenever I encountered her, an undeniable tension filled the atmosphere, an energy that felt out of place in a professional environment. She'd offer a smile that felt a touch too inviting, inquire if I required anything more, and her gaze would rest for just a heartbeat longer before she turned her eyes elsewhere. Something in the way she gazed at me now struck a chord, an unspoken shift that felt undeniably different. The kind of gaze that left me pondering if it was a figment of my imagination or if she genuinely had an interest. I had certainly been aware of her allure prior to this moment. She possessed an undeniable beauty. She possessed a captivating aura that demanded attention. However, this felt unique. I attempted to maintain my space, yet it proved to be quite challenging. She had a knack for always being present, no matter the situation. And I found myself pondering whether she was attempting to bridge the distance between us. Yet, I reassured myself that I was merely overanalyzing the situation. There was a palpable stillness in the air. I had a task at hand, and I excelled in it. I refused to allow myself to be sidetracked by something that lacked authenticity. That was until the moment when everything transformed. Patricia summoned me to her office, claiming it was for a meeting. However, upon my arrival, she was absent for a discussion about work. Far from it. I entered Patricia's office, anticipating a conversation about the project update. The ambience felt oddly distinct. The blinds were closed, the overhead lights softened slightly, and an unusual tranquility enveloped the space, contrasting sharply with the typical hustle of the office. She stood by the window, gazing out over the city, her posture relaxed yet imbued with a heightened intensity that was unfamiliar to me. "Richard," she said, turning to face me with a smile that radiated warmth beyond the ordinary. "I'm pleased you were able to visit. Kindly take a seat." I settled into a chair opposite her desk, attempting to conceal the discomfort that was slowly rising within me. My intuition was whispering that something was amiss. Typically, Patricia approached everything with a serious demeanor. Yet today, there was a distinct feeling in the air. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. She settled into her seat opposite me, her hands neatly folded before her. "I have something I've been wanting to share with you for quite some time." I arched an eyebrow, perplexed by her intentions. "Hey, what's going on?" She paused briefly, then leaned in, her gaze meeting mine with an intensity that was strikingly unfamiliar. "Lately, you've been on my mind quite a bit, Richard. Who we are." My heart raced with unexpected excitement. "We," I reiterated, striving to keep my calm. I managed a faint smile, assuming she was either joking or simply being her usual overly friendly self. Yet, her lips remained unmoved. Instead, her expression deepened, taking on a weighty and sincere quality. "Indeed, Richard. I've been keeping this inside for far too long," she said, her voice unwavering yet heavy with feeling. "For the past few years, I've held a deep admiration for you that perhaps I shouldn't have. It's not solely about your dedication, although that plays a role. Your demeanor and the comfort you bring to others are truly remarkable. There's an undeniable pull towards you that I find difficult to articulate, and I believe it's finally time to acknowledge it." I was utterly astonished. The words lingered in the air, and I caught myself gazing at her, uncertain of how to react. Thoughts swirled in my head as I struggled to grasp her words. This was the wife of my boss, a person I had held in high regard professionally for many years. Hearing her say this felt surreal. "Patricia, I find myself at a loss for words." I stumbled over my words. My throat felt parched, my hands quivered ever so slightly, yet I made an effort to maintain my composure. "This comes as a surprise." She nodded, as though she had foreseen my response. "I understand it's overwhelming, and trust me, I've made attempts to overlook it. Yet, the reality is, I cannot control my emotions." She took a brief moment to reflect, allowing the words to resonate, and then continued, "It's not merely a fleeting infatuation, Richard. There's more to it than meets the eye. This feeling has lingered within me for some time now." I squirmed in my chair, attempting to grasp the meaning behind her words. This had escalated beyond mere flirtation. She was revealing something profound. What's even more frustrating? I was at a loss for how to respond. In one regard, I felt a sense of pride. Who could possibly resist? Yet, I was acutely aware that this could put everything at risk. All that I have built, my standing, my entire journey. This took me by surprise. I finally found the words, though my voice came out softer than I had hoped. I have always held you in high regard, Patricia. I never imagined this would come to pass. She gazed at me, her eyes reflecting a hint of fragility. I was taken by surprise as well. Yet, here we find ourselves. An uncomfortable stillness enveloped the room as I struggled to make sense of it all. My heart raced, and my thoughts scattered in a myriad of directions. Uncertainty enveloped me as I grappled with the sudden surge of emotions within. I wished to dismiss it, to act as if this dialogue had never taken place. Yet, I found myself unable to do so. There was no turning back now. Patricia's eyes warmed, and she inched forward slightly. I have no expectations from you, Richard. I'm not expecting you to share the same feelings. I simply had to share this with you. I could no longer contain this within me. I nodded slowly, my mind swirling with uncertainty about the next steps to take. Your honesty is truly appreciated. However, we must exercise caution, Patricia. Well, you are wed to Mr. Lawrence. This might add a layer of complexity, wouldn't you agree? Her eyes danced momentarily, and then she let out a soft sigh. I understand, I'm not naive. Yet, I can no longer dismiss my emotions. I adjusted my position, the heaviness of her words bearing down on me. The pull I experienced toward her was undeniable, yet the potential repercussions of pursuing it loomed large in my mind. The stakes were high in terms of professionalism, and the personal implications were even more significant. My greatest fear was to jeopardize my career for something so trivial. I'm feeling quite lost and uncertain about my next steps. I confess to running my fingers through my hair. I never imagined something like this could occur. Patricia rose, her expression becoming gentler. I comprehend. There's no need to rush into any decisions at this moment. I want you to understand that I have faith in you, and I look forward to our continued collaboration. However, should your feelings change, you know how to reach me. She pivoted and made her way to the door, departing and leaving me in solitude with my reflections. Silence enveloped the room, creating an unsettling stillness. What just transpired? The following days passed in a haze. My concentration at work was nearly non-existent. I had always considered myself someone who valued maintaining a clear mind. Yet, I found myself unable to shake off the thoughts surrounding Patricia's revelation. Each time I encountered her in the office, it felt as though an unvoiced tension lingered in the air between us. Her eyes were fixed on me, the gaze stretching out a moment too long, and with each smile, it echoed the words we had exchanged. However, I also observed another aspect, the change in my own emotions. I was not oblivious. Patricia possessed an alluring charm, a magnetic presence, and a sharp intellect. She possessed all the qualities that made her shine in any gathering, and I had always held a deep admiration for her. However, her words struck me deeply. She revealed that she had been grappling with these emotions for an extended period and could no longer suppress them. This revelation shifted my perspective of her entirely. In an instant, she transformed from merely being my boss's spouse or the head of a department. She was a person who captivated my attention. Yet, I found myself constantly needing to remind myself that she was married. This was the wife of my boss, the very man who had shown me kindness and supported my career at every opportunity. Mr. Lawrence was a decent fellow. It was unthinkable to betray him in such a manner. I attempted to cast aside the thoughts, yet they persistently returned. Whenever I found myself gazing at Patricia during meetings, or when she came over to my desk for a conversation, I had to swiftly remind myself of my limits. I had to put a stop to this right here. One afternoon, while I was finalizing a report, I caught sight of Patricia lingering at the entrance of my office. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, gazing at me with a gentle smile. "Do you have a moment to spare?" she inquired, her tone steady, yet laced with an undercurrent that quickened my pulse. I nodded, placing my pen aside. "Absolutely." "Hello there." She entered the room, gently shutting the door behind her. Her approach had an unsettling quality that lingered in the air. It felt as though she was confirming our solitude. Text, I wanted to touch base with you, she started, perching on the edge of my desk. I understand that things have felt a bit off since we last spoke, and I wanted to check in to see how you're doing. I nodded, managing to put on a smile. I assure you, I'm perfectly okay. I've been doing quite a bit of pondering lately. She inclined her head just a bit, observing me intently. Comprehend. I certainly don't wish to impose on you, Richard. I was wondering if you've had a chance to reflect on what I mentioned. The space abruptly seemed more confined. My throat felt parched. I have, I stated with deliberate slowness. However, Patricia, we are both aware that this could lead to complications. Numerous elements. With a soft sigh, she let her fingers glide through her hair. I understand. Trust me, I understand. However, I can no longer act as if everything remains the same between us. I've been attempting to maintain a facade of normalcy, yet it eludes me. Returning to the past is simply not an option for me. Her words carried a heavy significance. Her seriousness was evident, reflected in the depths of her gaze. Yet, concurrently, I sensed the mounting pressure surrounding me. The weight of making a choice. The urgency to take action. I reclined in my chair, attempting to collect my thoughts. I never anticipated any of this, Patricia. Well, you are in a committed relationship. I am employed by your husband. This is not an issue we can overlook or dismiss lightly. I'm not asking you to overlook it, she said, her tone gentler now. Yet, I also wish to be open about my emotions. I took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the situation pressing down on me. You're correct, I replied, massaging the nape of my neck. This is quite significant. I find myself uncertain about the best course of action. She rose from her seat and approached the window, gazing out at the sprawling city skyline. I understand, she murmured softly. But what if there were no definitive solution? What if we collaborated to find the solution? Perhaps a flawless answer doesn't exist, Richard. Perhaps we should simply follow the path and discover what unfolds. Her words hung in the atmosphere, and for a fleeting instant, I considered the possibility of saying yes. The allure was undeniable. The part of me that had always held her in high regard, that had always felt an irresistible pull towards her, was yearning to make that move. However, I found myself reflecting on Mr. Lawrence. I reflected on the effort I had put in to reach my current position. How I had dedicated years to demonstrating my worth. I couldn't simply discard everything due to a fleeting lapse in strength. I suggested we take a step back, my voice steady, even if my heart wasn't completely convinced. Let's keep this simple and straightforward. She gazed at me, her expression momentarily inscrutable, before she gave a slight nod. I appreciate that, Richard. I simply wanted to express my feelings to you. A lengthy silence hung in the air before I finally found my words again, my tone gentler this time. Your well-being is important to me, Patricia. However, we must ensure that this does not put everything at risk. She offered a faint, melancholic smile. I understand, I simply needed you to listen. With that, she pivoted and exited my office, leaving me to grapple with my swirling thoughts. The space seemed to shrink further. The burden of silence loomed over me, and I realized that nothing would ever return to its former state. The upcoming days at the office felt stifling. I had always taken pride in my capacity to maintain a professional distance, to remain focused and dedicated to my tasks. Yet, with each step into the office, and every glance at Patricia, my mind would spiral into a whirlwind of thoughts. I attempted to maintain an air of normalcy, yet deep down, I was aware that it was anything but. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I sensed it in her gaze, in the cadence of her voice as she addressed me. It felt as though we were treading lightly, attempting to maintain the illusion that we hadn't just ventured into territory that was irrevocably altered. I repeatedly reassured myself that I was making the right choice, that I couldn't allow this situation with Patricia to spiral out of control. Yet, each time she flashed that smile my way, each time she approached my desk, it felt as though I was utterly powerless to resist or withdraw. It had evolved beyond mere attraction. The situation was far more intricate than it appeared. A profound connection lingered in the air, an unvoiced understanding that was increasingly difficult to overlook. Every conversation with my boss, Mr. Lawrence, felt like an immense burden resting heavily upon me. He was utterly unaware of the situation, which only intensified my struggle. How could I maintain my composure around him while secretly grappling with this tension involving his wife? The sensation was unsettling, and I loathed the way deceit was infiltrating my connection with him. One afternoon, while I was engaged in a meeting with a client, my phone vibrated on the table. A swift look revealed a message from Patricia. I felt a sudden rush of emotion and quietly left the meeting, stepping out of the room. As I opened the message, a wave of dread washed over me, causing my stomach to plummet at the sight of its contents. "Are you available to chat this evening? I must see you." Initially, I felt compelled to dismiss it. I felt it was best not to engage any deeper. Yet, the image of her lingered, the way she gazed at me in the office, the raw vulnerability in her eyes as she shared her feelings, echoed endlessly in my thoughts. I was reluctant to disappoint her, and honestly, a part of me longed to reunite with her. I crafted a brief response. "Understood. Where is it?" Her reply came in a flash. "I will collect you at 8 o'clock. A knot twisted in my stomach. This had gone too far, I was aware of that. Yet, I was acutely aware that I had already plunged into this chaos. There was no straightforward escape. As the clock chimed 8 that evening, I stood patiently outside my apartment building. Thoughts swirled in my mind, anticipating the moment I would lay eyes on Patricia once more. Could this have been an error? Had I just committed a monumental mistake that could jeopardize it all? A vehicle came to a stop at the edge of the street, and Patricia emerged, clad in a modest yet sophisticated ensemble that inexplicably enhanced her charm. She gazed at me, her eyes a blend of softness and intensity, and I felt the profound impact of her stare. She spoke softly, a faint smile playing at the edges of her mouth. I nodded, managing a smile in response. "Hello, I understand you wanted to have a conversation." She acted swiftly and decisively. "I simply cannot continue to put on a facade. Richard, I would like to understand if your feelings align with mine. This can no longer be concealed." I paused, my heart racing within me. A part of me yearned to say yes, to surrender to this enticing yet forbidden allure. Yet, I found myself unable to do so. I couldn't turn my back on Mr. Lawrence. I couldn't jeopardize my career due to a fleeting lapse in judgment. I'm at a loss for words. I finally responded, my tone strained. "I'm working on understanding this, but it's more complex than just our situation. It encompasses all aspects. My profession, your union. This has the potential to destroy it all." She moved a bit nearer, her face relaxing into a gentler look. "I understand that I'm not requesting you to come to a conclusion at this moment. I simply required your words, Richard. I just wanted to confirm that you're not overlooking this matter as well." Her words struck me with the force of a blow to the stomach. I wished to convey to her that I was not overlooking it. I experienced something as well. Yet, I found myself unable to express it. I couldn't allow myself to venture into that territory. "I'm not overlooking it." I finally spoke, my voice barely rising above a whisper. "However, I find myself uncertain about the next steps to take." Patricia extended her hand, gently resting it on my arm. The touch ignited a spark within me. Yet I hesitated, a wave of uncertainty washing over me, questioning whether my actions were truly justified. "I don't want to put any pressure on you," she said. Her voice was a mere whisper. "I simply cannot bear the thought of losing you, Richard. I can no longer bear the weight of this secret." I took a step back, seeking to establish a bit of space. "Patricia, this isn't feasible for us. This path is no longer sustainable for us." She appeared wounded, yet she gave a nod. "I comprehend. I wanted to share my feelings with you." The air hung heavy with an unsettling stillness between us. The intensity of her feelings enveloped me, creating a palpable tension in the atmosphere. Yet, I understood that it was time for me to distance myself. I needed to choose wisely, regardless of the difficulty involved. Text, I believe it's best if we simply leave it as is, I stated, my tone resolute, even though my heart remained conflicted. Without a word, she simply turned and made her way back to the car. I remained rooted to the spot, observing her as she disappeared down the road. In that moment, I experienced a profound sense of disorientation. As I made my way back to my apartment after that night, a swirl of emotions enveloped me, leaving me uncertain about how to process it all. Engaging in dialogue with Patricia proved to be the most challenging experience I had ever faced. I built barriers, attempting to maintain control over my feelings. Yet, as I revisited each moment in my mind, an overwhelming sense of loss washed over me. Surely, I made the correct choice, didn't I? I had turned away. I established clear boundaries. Yet, as time went on, that persistent sense of doubt continued to gnaw at my mind. I had distanced myself from her, yet I couldn't quite determine if my motives were justified. Was I merely attempting to preserve my position, my professional path? Or was there an underlying truth, something I struggled to acknowledge within myself? What felt uncomfortable for some time following that evening? I noticed Patricia in the office, yet our conversations were minimal. Her smile appeared increasingly strained. Her presence was akin to a shadow, quietly lingering in the periphery. The nagging sensation lingered that I had somehow conveyed indifference towards her, yet I had to prioritize my own well-being, didn't I? One morning, while I was seated at my desk, immersed in contemplation, my phone vibrated. I looked at it, half anticipating another message from Patricia, but to my surprise, it was from Mr. Lawrence, my boss. Richard, I would like to have a moment of your time in my office. Immediate attention required. My stomach churned. It has the potential to be anything. Just another challenge at work, a new endeavor, or maybe something unexpected that has come up. I inhaled deeply and approached his office, striving to set aside any lingering anxiety. Upon my arrival, Mr. Lawrence was seated at his desk, poring over a stack of papers. Please, Richard, take a seat, he said, gesturing toward the chair opposite him. I would like to discuss something significant with you. I settled into my seat, my heart pounding with anticipation. Uncertainty enveloped me as I sensed the weight of his gaze, signaling that this encounter would transcend the ordinary exchange of words. He began, his tone noticeably more serious than usual. I've noticed that the atmosphere has been somewhat strained recently, and I'm conscious of the discomfort that seems to exist with Patricia. He halted, examining my expression. I understand she's been a bit withdrawn, and I just want to check in on how you're doing. Thoughts surged through my mind. What is he trying to convey? I was completely in the dark about his knowledge and what Patricia might have shared with him, yet I refused to jump to conclusions. I'm doing well, Mr. Lawrence. I responded, making an effort to convey assurance. I have been completely absorbed in my craft. He gazed at me for an extended moment before giving a slow nod. Your commitment is truly valued, Richard, and your contributions to this team over the years have been significant, but I need to clarify something important. Whatever is going on between you and Patricia, if it extends beyond professional matters, I hope it doesn't interfere with your work. I stood still. Thus, he was aware, or at the very least, he had an inkling of something amiss. This was not unfolding as I had envisioned. I'm not sure what you mean, sir, I replied with a firm tone, but I can guarantee that my work has remained unaffected. He nodded once more, his face a mask of ambiguity. It's positive, yet I believe we need to come to a mutual understanding. This organization holds significant value for me, and I have put in considerable effort to reach my current position. I would never want anything to put that at risk. A wave of remorse washed over me. I had never intended to put anything at risk, especially not my employment. Yet, a part of me sensed that I was relinquishing something far more significant than merely my profession. I grasped the situation, I replied softly. I am dedicated to my craft. He offered a slight smile, yet it failed to illuminate his eyes. Excellent, maintain that approach. I've been entrusting you with more responsibilities lately because I recognize your potential, but it's important that you stay focused to continue on this path." The words resonated with an ominous finality. My heart plummeted. This was his subtle hint for me to keep my distance from Patricia, ensuring that my personal life wouldn't disrupt my professional path. I exited his office with a sense of emptiness. The weight of the moment had finally settled in, and I realized it was time to make a definitive choice. The following day, I received a message from Patricia. "Shall we arrange another meeting? I would like to have a conversation." I took my time to respond. I contemplated it. Consider my choices. I might return to her, embrace the uncertainty, and confront whatever comes next. Alternatively, I could remain in my comfortable, stable position, with my employment assured. The choice was challenging, yet unmistakably evident. I needed to step back. I couldn't allow this entanglement, this illicit desire, to jeopardize all that I had strived to achieve. My professional journey held significant importance to me. Later that evening, I encountered her once more, yet this time, it was far from a clandestine rendezvous. I was certain it was the correct course of action. Confronting the aftermath of my choices, taking responsibility for what transpired. "Patricia," I began, my tone firm yet tinged with remorse. "It seems we must come to terms with the fact that this is not feasible. I can't continue on this path with you. I have reached my conclusion." Her gaze met mine, revealing a blend of sorrow and comprehension. "I understand," she murmured. "I anticipated this moment." I inhaled deeply. "I apologize, Patricia, but I must prioritize my future. I cannot jeopardize everything for an endeavor that is unlikely to succeed." She nodded, her lips quivering, yet she refrained from contesting. Silence enveloped the moment, leaving no room for further words. We exchanged our farewells, and I turned to leave, the heaviness of the choice pressing down on my heart. I accomplished what was required of me. I had made my choice, yet a part of me would forever ponder the path I didn't take. Could the outcome have changed had I succumbed to that allure? Perhaps, but at this moment, I was certain I had made the right decision. As I drove home, it dawned on me that sometimes, the most challenging aspect of maturing is recognizing when to release what no longer serves us.